Chapter 7. Create an effective character. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create. T.S. Eliot, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. You are reasonably well hidden and functional in society, which means you have learned the logical meaning of the major emotions, what they look and sound like, and when and how they are appropriately expressed. You are generally understood to be able to pantomime emotions but not experience them directly. You've practiced and effectively displayed expressive coherence at your interview. Now you need to extend this coherence over a longer period of time, and it's the performance of your life. The good news is, you are better at pretending than the average person. True's confessions: I'm a tender-hearted motherfucker. I'm raw and wounded and expend a decent amount of energy every day to make it seem that way. Expressing weakness is a great way to elicit empathy and get people to let down their guard. T. Johnson, pilot. Bridgeport, Connecticut. In the office. The depth of your inner feeling doesn't matter, as long as you seem okay and reasonably consistent and collected. Do you think people at work actually care who you are at heart? Do you think they care if you unleash your sociopathic side at home or at the bar none of them go to? No. Because they don't want to think about you at all. They want to feel secure enough in the fact that you won't fuck them over that they can stop worrying about you altogether. So they can forget about you and think about themselves. I'm not saying there aren't great-hearted men and women in business who form deep collaborations, connections, alliances, and loyalty to one another, striving forth with excellence and providing meaningful contributions to society. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying you're not one of them. And I'm trying to help you.
A sense of self. While you've been described as wearing a mask of sanity, it's essential to understand that everyone else is not walking around with some immutable and ironclad sense of who they really are, and an assured sense of self and identity. Everyone around you is also wearing a mask, also playing a character, if for different reasons. The very word person comes from the Latin word persona, or a mask. There is no I-self that is flawlessly innate and natural and able to shift from private to public spheres without any acting. Everybody acts. And everybody acts differently all day long, depending on who they're with and what they're selling. All the world's a stage, just about says it all. Shakespeare may be so enduringly popular because he can express the hollowness most people feel, even if they spend their lives hiding it. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Here are some other interesting quotes about self, to give you a flavor of what other people feel like inside. You may be cooler, emptier, but you're not completely different. We may practically say he has as many different social selves as there are distinct groups of persons about whose opinion he cares. Many a youth who is demure enough before his parents and teachers, swears and swaggers like a pirate among his tough young friends. William James, The Principles of Psychology. We are things that labor under the illusion of having a self, an accretion of sensory experience and feeling, programmed with total assurance that we are each somebody, when in fact everybody is nobody. Rust Cole, True Detective. Facts about ourselves are not particularly solid and resistant to skeptical dissolution. Our natures are, indeed, elusively insubstantial, notoriously less stable and less inherent than the natures of other things. And insofar as this is the case, sincerity itself is bullshit. Harry G. Frankfurt, on bullshit. A man's at odds to know his mind cause his mind is ought he has to know it with. Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian. We are unknown, we knowers, to ourselves. Of necessity we remain strangers to ourselves, we understand ourselves not, in ourselves we are bound to be mistaken, for each of us holds good to all eternity the motto, each is the farthest away from himself, as far as ourselves are concerned we are not knowers. Friedrich Nietzsche, The Genealogy of Morals. Most people love you for who you pretend to be. To keep their love, you keep pretending performing. You get to love your pretense. It's true, we're locked in an image, an act, and the sad thing is, people get so used to their image, they grow attached to their masks. They love their chains. They forget all about who they really are. And if you try to remind them, they hate you for it, they feel like you're trying to steal their most precious possession. Jim Morrison, Cream Magazine. I'm beginning to know myself. I don't exist. I'm the gap between what I'd like to be and what others have made of me. Period. Fernando Pessoa, The Book of Disquiet.
Arrest Dexter, the serial killer star of the show Dexter, is able to evade detection for as long as he does because of his father's teachings on how best to hide his dark passenger. He adopts a resting persona that's sort of an affable vanilla. This is a good strategy for your everyday behavior. You want to seem relaxed yet confident. You don't want to stand out as too peculiar, but also don't want to come across as a boring wallflower. Most importantly, you need a safe resting stance to hide your inappropriate sociopathic urges. A persona which doesn't exhaust you with excessive control requirements. You don't need to be the big-hearted office confidant, but you do need, at least, to make sure you don't kill animals at work. Hide early and often. Divert suspicion. It's easier to keep suspicion from cropping up than it is to quell it once it has been aroused. Remember, good people are rarely suspicious. They cannot imagine others doing things they themselves are incapable of doing. Most people lack imagination. It takes a lot to make them suspicious. They may be an exasperatingly easy target, but you need to learn to resist the urge to go out of your way to menace them. For God's sakes, keep a hold of yourself. When pursuing advancement and power, you will at times be required to assert your fitness for promotion, which may well require a more active persona. If your expressive coherence is in good working order, you can turn on a more proactive and aggressive character to solidify and improve your position. Then return to your affable vanilla to rest. Sociopaths tend to over-whitewash their shortcomings. Resist the temptation to make yourself look too good. It will make people suspicious. By allowing yourself to exhibit a few weaknesses, you'll come off as more personable. Create a weird hobby for yourself that no one else is interested in. For example, tell people you collect vintage 8mm home movies from thrift shops. No one will ever want to watch them with you, nor will they doubt you do this at night, and will think watching must take a lot of time and patience. A perfect alibi. Tip: Army training for British Special Forces includes how to act when captured. The tactic is to become the grey man, and make yourself as bland and featureless as possible. To seem unimportant and irrelevant works as psychological camouflage. While not exactly a getting ahead strategy, it's something to keep in mind for when you are next feeling vulnerable.
Office parties. Sociopaths, alcohol, dates, and bosses present a potentially dangerous combination. But suck it up and be smart. Properly utilized, the holiday party offers a three-way gold mine. You can display and expand your agreeable persona, maneuver those power channels that aren't normally open to you, and pick up a double-edged secret or two once everybody's drunk. Circulate with robust good cheer like an agreeable, promotable asset. A team player. If you can swing it, borrow, beg, or steal a hilarious and hot date to provide cover and make you look cool, even if you are never going to sleep together. Otherwise, come alone. Don't overdress and don't act excited about the free booze and food. This behavior is for plebes. The food will be awkward to eat, so skipping it altogether is safest, though clumsily trying to wrangle a Swedish meatball on a tiny plastic sword can provide some comic relief and make you seem endearing to your peers. The office party offers a unique opportunity to strike up a conversation with those above you who you might not normally have access to. Everyone is slightly out of their element, so the game is looser than at the office. But you need to make sure you strike at the right time. In power. How to get it, how to use it, author Michael Korda gets technical with office party power maneuvers. I'll roughly paraphrase. Those in power will come late and leave early. At midnight, the first wave of sheep arrive, excited about the buffet, the booze, and having a jolly time. 0:30 the rest arrive, playing it a little more nonchalant. This is when you should come in. 0:40 the bosses start to show up, to talk to their workers. 0:55 the bosses will clump together and talk to each other. During which time everyone else is assessing who is talking to whom, and who's garnering a crowd. It's a big time for posturing beneath the good cheer. Bide your time. The sweet spot for interlevel hobnobbing is the second hour after the party starts. The boss clump will dissolve, indicating a hierarchical free-for-all. Just make sure to wait until those above you are finished saying hello to those above them. Then you should drop in for a quick, breezy conversation with a superior you want to impress. Don't get drunk and dance on desks. On the other hand, refraining from drinking at all will make people think you're an alcoholic, so drink some beer. The third hour is a great time to glean compromising information that can be useful later. Think of a party as a fact-finding mission. Be professional when no one else is. People will get drunk and let down their guard. Ask questions, listen. Keep your wits about you. This is especially effective when you are dealing with those who wield indirect power. Because drunk people often act like idiots, people who see you with a drink are proven to think you are stupider than if you weren't holding a drink, even if you exhibit zero evidence of being impaired. Studies find that, in the absence of any evidence of reduced cognitive performance, people who hold an alcoholic beverage are perceived to be less intelligent than those who do not, a mistake we term the imbibing idiot bias. This is good cover. Carrying a drink will make you seem like less of an inquisitive threat. Once people get uselessly sloppy, go home. Don't announce you're going. Just leave.
Naturalness. People fake a lot of human interactions, but I feel like I fake them all, and I fake them very well. That's my burden, I guess. Dexter naturalness is an extension of expressive coherence, and people are very attentive to any breaks or hiccups in the routine. Being natural is unconscious and easy. Acting natural is quite difficult. In the presentation of self in everyday life, Irving Goffman suggests people are better equipped to sniff out a fraud than be a convincing actor, saying the arts of piercing an individual's effort at calculated unintentionality seem better developed than our capacity to manipulate our own behavior. So this is a bind: you're a total fraud required to perform, for an extended period of time, a believable character for people who are great at one thing: recognizing a fraud. So what are you supposed to do? Actors have all sorts of tricks to create a convincing natural character. Michael Caine says, while rehearsing something with a fellow actor, if a crew member can come up and recognize you're rehearsing versus having a real conversation, then you aren't doing it right. Method actors tie themselves up in psychic knots following the Meisner technique to live truthfully under given imaginary circumstances or gain complete emotional identification with a part. Michael Chekhov's students work in earnest to improve their proprioception and focus on mind, body, and a conscious awareness of the senses. But it doesn't have to be this hard. You can affect the look of an emotional state without feeling it at all. For example, James Franco keeps it simple. To invoke his famous enigmatic grin, he doesn't think about a long-lost love or the meaning of the universe. He says, "Sometimes I'm imagining a fan blowing hot air on me. And sometimes I imagine it's a blast of bus exhaust." Johnny Depp keeps it complicated. A quote attributed to him online, "I try to stay in a constant state of confusion just because of the expression it leaves on my face." It's worth exploring what weird random thoughts can give you that I'm a normal, nice-ish person face, and use them. Because, as Marlon Brando well knew, it is a simple fact that all of us use the techniques of acting to achieve whatever ends we seek. Acting serves as the quintessential social lubricant and a device for protecting our interests and gaining advantage in every aspect of life. Perry, one of the killers in Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, used the mirror to help him create different expressions. It was a changeling's face, and mirror-guided experiments had taught him how to ring the changes, how to look now ominous, now impish, now soulful, a tilt of the head, a twist of the lips, and the corrupt gypsy became the gentle romantic. Many actors use mirror work to perfect their characters' expressions and gestures. Mirrors are everywhere. Practice and learn what your face looks like. If your acting chops don't seem up to the conversation at hand, do your best to get off stage. Ask people about themselves. Homo sapiens love talking about themselves. Take an interest in the world around you or otherwise divert attention away from your performance.
Confidence is not arrogance. Matt Damon, playing up the appeal of his Jason Bourne character, has an uncommon view of the world's most famous spy. They could never make a James Bond movie like any of the Bourne films, because Bond is an imperialist, misogynist sociopath who goes around betting women and swilling martinis and killing people. He's repulsive. Whatever, Matt. He's also one of the most popular heroes of the last 50 years. And he has way more fun than Bourne, who, let's face it, is kind of a sucker. General Patton used to practice his impressive scowl in front of the mirror for hours. For many, confidence is difficult to muster and project. Not for you, but this doesn't mean you won't have a confidence problem if you're not careful. Motivational speaker Walter Bond frames it in a way that's particularly useful for you. Confidence is arrogance under control. Control is the operative word here. Take this Bond's advice and keep a muzzle on your arrogance. Confidence and arrogance invoke very different responses in others.
Don't get cocky. Not everyone is burdened with disguising the fact that they're a sociopath, but they do perform normalized roles for one another all the time in order to make society function smoothly. Whether acting as doctor, waitress, teacher, friend, or husband, their elaborate psychosocial contract works only because they agree to believe each other. They offer what Goffman describes as protective practices. People are desperate not to make a scene, so they'll go to great lengths to support the validity of your asserted self in order to avoid public embarrassment. Even if they can see right through your act. This is important for you to remember when you seem to really be pulling it off. It's not just because you are doing such a dazzling job. It's not just because you're smarter and better than everybody else. It's partly because the people around you are offering to believe you, in the name of keeping order. Goffman says, few impressions could survive if those who received the impression did not exert tact in their reception of it. This is a good thing to keep in mind, when your feelings of ruling, and winning, and killing it, are running hot. You're not fooling everyone as much as they're letting you believe. Similarly, blind spot bias leads you to believe other people's judgment is clouded by their biases, while your own judgment is not. Not true. In general, we notice flaws in others more easily than we notice them in ourselves, which is a weakness. Narcissists take note, this is especially true for you. You are consistently the worst offenders, even though you're probably disagreeing vigorously right now. Trust me, your blind spot is large. It's worth repeating, don't get cocky. This is how mistakes are made.
You're not that good. People are constantly giving you a break and will continue to do so until it becomes more uncomfortable for them to ignore your bullshit than to openly confront you. Here are some amazing examples of Silicon Valley tech bros who just can't help themselves. Usually, they get a pass for acting like an overt sociopath because investors want to believe their unicorn company will make everyone involved stinking rich. That is, until the moment one of these brothers gets the genius idea to force into the open just how undeniably awful he is. Self-described entrepreneur and San Francisco resident, Justin Keller took it upon himself to write an amazingly ill-conceived public letter to the San Francisco mayor and chief of police. Unprompted, he wrote, "I know people are frustrated about gentrification happening in the city, but the reality is, we live in a free market society. The wealthy working people have earned their right to live in the city. I shouldn't have to see the pain, struggle, and despair of homeless people to and from my way to work every day." What was the fucking point of writing that? Now, this previously undercover operator is world famous for being a narcissistic clueless prick, hated by everybody. Stupid move. Then of course, there's Martin Shkreli, the self-described, I believe, pharmabro, who raised the price of the life-saving AIDS drug Daraprim from $13.50 a pill to $750 a pill. He could have tried to soothe the ensuing uproar with the dickish but somewhat legitimate arguments he used later, that pharma has a legal right to charge whatever it wants for a privately studied and licensed product, or that the drug prices of today pay to develop the drugs for tomorrow, etc. But he didn't even do that. Instead, he sat in front of Congress on national television, smirked, rolled his eyes, and pleaded the fifth with such bratty contempt that even people who hate Congress immediately shifted all that hate onto this dude. Since then convicted for securities fraud, this bro obviously doesn't know how to play his cards right and has no idea how to be cool. He is not your role model. Don't say or do things like this. Keep your shit together. Pay attention to who you're talking to and don't put anything arrogant and stupid in writing, anywhere, ever. Natural, affable, confident. If not exactly the building blocks of an exhilarating megastar, these are the traits you, as a sociopath, should keep in mind while creating your public face. Focus on maneuverability, creating space, and avoiding suspicion. Encourage people's instinct toward protective practices to work in your favor. Encourage them to protect you. Then strike when nobody's looking.